Hey guys, Bella here. I guess I am one of Alabama's newest real estate agents because I passed my test on the first try with an 81. So after much stress, anxiety, an actual ulcer that formed in my mouth from my stress, it's all over with and I can actually conduct business now in a few weeks when I get everything squared away. So I have basically a little list of everything that I did to pass the test. I'm going to hold it up and I want you to pause the video and write this stuff down or do something with it, make a mental note. So here it is. Okay, so here is the prep book that I think is the most valuable. This book runs about $40 on Amazon. You can order it, I think, Amazon Prime and get it in 2 days if you're really needing to study. It's not as thick as the book that I was given in class. This book has 2 practice tests, and questions from this practice test were very similar to the ones that were on the real test. So what I did with this is I did all the practice tests once, and I went back and highlighted the correct answer and studied it again. And I would really encourage you to work through this entire book. Like, I know there's some videos about how to pass your test if you have not read the book, but honestly guys, like, you need to read the book to kind of understand these concepts. Another thing is that you can sort of get an understanding from this book because it has, in the answers section, it will tell you the logic behind why something is the way it is. So here's the answers to the sales exam. You might be able to see that or pause it. Basically, it's going to tell you, like, number 8 is B. A title transferred by a quitclaim deed provides no warranties. It transfers whatever interest the grantor has in the property. Or the sellers owe the remaining balance of the month's rent to the buyer. Or prepaid expenses are a credit to the seller and a debit to the buyer. So you're getting rationales for everything. And this book also has in the very back a synopsis of everything. It's called a key point review to go, and you can tear it out, and it has, let's see how long it is. It's about 30 pages maybe of information, but if you go through this, you'll kind of have the idea of everything that's going to be on the test. So I highly encourage this book. Alright, the next book is the one that was given to me in my real estate class in the state of Alabama, Modern Real Estate Practice, 19th edition. So this one is also useful because it has practice tests, but also because this has everything. Every concept that you're going to go over, it is in this book. And it has steps to work all the problems. It has math problems. It has, the exam reviews. So I highly encourage that. As far as my other tips that I dropped on the floor, highlighter and pen. So use a highlighter, and when you read, if you see something that you should remember, go ahead and highlight it. And then that way when you go back and study, you can just flip through the book and see all the places that you highlighted. And then, of course, I use my pen to make notes throughout my book. There's a lot of notes that I made, like not relevant in Alabama was one thing that I made a note on, because certain things are, net listing is illegal in Alabama. So wherever you're taking the test, you'll have your state-specific questions. And as far as that goes, I actually have a copy of my state's license law and studied that as well. So some of my other materials in here. This is all of my course material for my class. We were given these chapter review questions, and we went over them in class. So I personally liked taking this in class because it gave me a chance to ask face-to-face questions to my instructor and getting a lot of information in a small amount of time. The classes were 3 hours and we would cover a lot of stuff, but we'd also have fun and we just kind of like ask questions about the local market and be like, hey, well, does this happen here? Yes or no? So you can sort of see the local color when you are taking the test in class, or taking the class in person instead of online. I like online classes as well, but for this I really wanted to do it in person. Okay, so we have in Alabama 33, I think, license law violations that, 31 license law violations that we kind of have to know, or at least know about, so that we can refer to them. So each one of these I sort of went over and made sure that I knew about it. All of these, I didn't even study all of this before the test, and I still passed, but I think the main reason that I passed the test is because I showed up to class and I listened, and I also supplemented that with podcasts about real estate. And so by listening to podcasts like Bigger Pockets, they're using these terms and they're putting them into a story, so you can remember that for the test if they're talking about a multifamily investment with an FHA loan, with 3.5% down versus a hard money lender who is going to give you a loan, but the loan is going to be at 10%, and you're going to have to pay them back a balloon payment. That's just an example of stuff that actually is said on that podcast. So if you're hearing all those terms, you can actually just write those down as you listen and then look it up and make sure that you understand it. So I would say that that is really, really helpful to just sort of supplement your education with other real estate books. Just have real estate on your mind in general. You should be doing that anyways, because you're going to get your real estate license. Like, you need to know about real estate. Some of the books that I actually recommend, let me go and grab those off my bookshelf so that I can show you guys. Just one second. Okay, so these are definitely not the end-all be-all of real estate books, but these really did tie into all the other information. So this one's your first year in real estate. It has a lot of ways to make you think about the test, whether you realize that or not, because of the language and the wording that they're using. Also, this book, very, very helpful. It talks about numbers a lot. It talks about cash flow and the different ways that properties can make value or add value, and it talks about appreciation, depreciation, as far as rental income goes. Like multiple units are rented out for this price. You have a 5% vacancy rate, and these are your expenses, and what's your net income, what's your gross income. So those are things that you can get out of this book. And the last one I'll recommend. This one is not a book to help you study for the test exactly, but this book is, you see how small it is. This is one of the most valuable things that I have bought to help my real estate career. It literally just talks about how to pick a broker, how to look at the market, how to do listings, how to forecast what your what your area of expertise should be based on your area. And it just sort of opened my eyes up to some other ideas that I didn't really know about. Okay, so those I would recommend. Now, as far as the test and the test day, I have to go to a PSI testing center in Alabama, so I had to drive down the night before, and I didn't have to, but I did. That way I wouldn't be stressed out in driving the next day. So I drove down and I found out where it was, and that way I wouldn't have to rush to it. And I, ate good food that week and didn't, tried not to stress myself out with any other things in your life, because you might get stressed out, about something that isn't related to your test, and it can mess up your test performance. Because once I got in there, I realized how nervous I really was. Like, when I was sitting in the cubicle in front of the computer screen, I was like, oh my God, this is really happening. Like, the thing that I've been studying for 6 months is in front of my face. So, that's when you just kind of like take a deep breath and, be like, okay, I know this, I studied this, I've prepared, and that means I'm going to be fine. Okay, so the last thing on my little list here is that you need to pick a letter, A, B, C, or D, obviously, and stick with it. So statistically, you have a 25% chance of getting it right every time you guess. So there were certain questions that I knew that I didn't know what it was even about. Like, I knew, like, I haven't studied this, or I don't know what this is, or none of these words are making any sense. So I pick C every single time. That your letter can be B, your letter can be A, it really doesn't matter. But you need to stick to the same one, and you don't need to stress out about those questions, because that's just one question out of 145 questions. So 100 questions come from your national test, and then 40 questions come from your state test, and then 5 questions are just randomly thrown into they're testing that question to see how people will do on it. So yeah, that is sort of how I prepared. I read the book. I took all the chapter quizzes in both of those books. I went to a class. I read books, and I also listened to podcasts and YouTube videos about real estate. So as long as you keep it in the forefront of your mind, I think that you'll be okay. If you are struggling with the concepts, I would really recommend going to a class, an in-person class, because that to me was the way that I could just, get immediate feedback, raise my hand, and be like, I don't understand the difference between joint tenancy and tenancy in common. Can you please break it down for me further? Like, or just like a, hey, what's this math step? I'm seeing this part of it, but I'm not seeing, the middle part of it. So that I really would advocate for an in-person class. Now, I have to take the post-license class, and I'll look for one that is in person as well, because I just think that it's more valuable to talk to just to get out there in the community and talk to other realtors in your area who know the market and understand it is really, really valuable. So yeah, thanks for watching the video, and good luck on your test if you are studying. And if you have any questions, I might be able to answer them. You can leave them in the comment section, or maybe somebody else will, swoop in and be able to answer them as well. But it's nothing to really drive yourself crazy about. It's not like the MCATs. It's not like, some kind of, it's not even as, to me, like, I took the ACT, and the ACT was way harder than this. So if you can do okay on your ACT, you could do okay on this. So yeah, thanks so much for watching the video, guys. I will keep you posted with my real estate business and how it develops in the future. So I really want to get some videos out on getting listings and leads and cold calls and all the fun stuff. So yeah, thanks so much.